Welcome everyone to this webinar. We're really happy and honored that we have this opportunity together with HxN at Nosotros. And while researching, reflecting, and reaching out during our preparation, there were many things that have puzzled us. Many things where we found answers, but even more things where we are still puzzled and have big questions. And so we're looking forward to be exploring pathways together today towards an inclusive circular economy within the next hour alongside each other. And we're really excited to be joined by Adriana Marina, founder of Hecho Nosotros and Animana, our panelists, Luna Perez-Paglia, Shubham Prakash, Gautam Malik, and our very own Dureid Saman. And we also have Helena, Comella, Romeu, and Marjolein Koek, who will be giving a background presentation. But before we go to the interactive background presentation and the panel discussion, I have the honor to give the floor to Adriana. Adriana, welcome.
Thank you, Klara. Well, very welcome to this space of Hecho por Nosotros and Animana, where we collaborate for this journey of systemic change in order that we rethink our way of living, our way of producing and consuming. And today that we are in a key moment, we may embrace many of the challenges and go for the potentiality. Such an important issue, youth being embracing the problems, the waste that we are living, our generation. I think we have been very irresponsible, and now you have a lot of challenges in order to regenerate our ecosystem, to recover biodiversity, and to dive in through the creative economy and collaboration to the new economy. So for me, it's such a pleasure to welcome you all to be doing part of this journey. And we are eager to listen for a constructive dialogue. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Adriana. Now I have the pleasure to introduce already to my lovely teammates. If maybe someone could share the screen with the presentation. Yeah, I think some of you might already know us. We are Dureid, Helena, Marjolein, and myself, Klara. And yeah, we are a student team from Windesheim University in the Netherlands. And as part of our minor, we are currently in Delhi in India and managing a project there for a collaboration between Hecho Nosotros and Conserve. And we started this project in February from the Netherlands and then relocated to Delhi in the end of March. And now, almost 4 months later, we have had the chance to explore Indian culture, visit Conserve's upcycling sites, and develop training modules detailing how 7 different machines can be used to upcycle plastic. And as a closeout for a lovely collaboration with HxN, we are hosting this webinar. And in the following interactive presentation, Marjolein and Helena will give you a background in the past fashion and plastic crisis and our learnings throughout our collaboration. Yeah, I'm happy to give the floor to you two. Okay.
Okay, microphone's on.
Yes, thank you, Klara, for the introduction. Before we start with the presentation, I actually want to ask you to please go to menti.com. There's a QR code on the screen that you can scan, and a code which you will be using to log in. And this Mentimeter is there to have questions during the presentation to make it a bit more interactive. So yes, please log into that. We're really waiting a bit to give everyone some time. Yeah.
If anyone has questions on how to access it, you can always write it in the chat, and one of our team members will assist you in help you and access it. But I think then we can, I see some people still joining.
So while there are still some people joining, I'm going to start with asking you a rhetorical question. And that is, what do you think of when you think of plastic? While many people will think of plastic bottles or food packaging, plastic bags, straws, maybe even a beach ball, very few people will think of clothes. And is it loading?
Sorry, technical errors of presenting. That's can never escape those.
Where is it not?
Okay.
There we go. And this is because what many people do not realize is that a lot of our clothes are made out of plastic and synthetic fibers like polyester and nylon, which are essentially plastics. And since fast fashion is one of the biggest industries that we know nowadays, we wanted to introduce you to the history and impact that fast fashion has, since this is like such a part of the much bigger problem. So before going into the history of fast fashion, I'm going to start with asking you the first question, and that is, what comes to mind when you think of fast fashion? So please write your answers in the Mentimeter, and then they'll appear on the screen. So yeah, fast fashion as we know it today is still relatively new, and it did not exist in its current form until the 20th century. And the term fast fashion is used to describe the available, cheap, and easily accessible fashion of today. And it describes how quickly retailers can move designs from the catwalks to the stores. But how did it start? Well, fast fashion really started changing after World War II. The mass production techniques and advancements in textile manufacturing allowed for the production of affordable, ready-to-wear clothes on a much larger scale. And this is where you can see the first shift towards more accessible fashion happen. After this, the emerge of retail chains such as Zara and H&M introduced a new business model, and these retail chains focus more on quick turnover, low prices, and frequent introduction of new designs. And with the rise of globalization that followed not much later, the increase of outsourcing the production to countries with lower labor costs and less strict regulations became the new normal. Together with the widespread adaptation of the internet and advancements in communication and manufacturing technologies, the sharing of information, production, and distribution became even faster. And with the rise of social media platforms in the early 2000s that were used to promote products, there was a sense of urgency created for the customers to stay up to date with their wardrobes. That urgency plays really well into the see now, buy now approach, which means that clothes showcasts on runways or an advertisement is made immediately available for purchase. Now, looking at the word cloud that you created, I can see a lot of words related to the negative sides of fast fashion, such as child labor, unfair payments, and that is often what fast fashion is associated with. So thank you for putting those answers in. Because fast fashion is such a big industry, the dominance of fast fashion also has negative effects on local textile and garment industries. Traditional craft techniques and small-scale production suffer as mass-produced low-cost alternatives flood the market. And to meet high demands of fast fashion, brands outsource production to countries with low labor standards, and workers in these regions may face unsafe working conditions, long working hours, and are unfortunately met with very low wages. And this is mainly possible because in these countries, there's often a lack of oversight and transparency. that occurs during the actual textile production. Brands allow their subdivisions to remain largely unregulated to avoid being responsible for the unethical practices that they're using. And additionally to the bad working conditions, the workers face health risks due to the production of fast fashion that employs the use of 8,000 synthetic chemicals, which have been shown to cause cancer and other illnesses. Unfortunately, it does not end there. The fast fashion industry also brings major environmental impacts. Textile production requires vast amounts of natural resources such as water, energy, and raw materials, contributing to the resource depletion. And looking at water alone, the fashion industry is highly water intense and is the second largest polluter of clean water globally, accounting for 20% of global industrial water pollution. Due to the use of chemicals and harmful substances, including dyes and bleaches, it can have adverse effects on the environment when improperly disposed, leading to, for instance, soil and water contamination. But that's not all. The production of clothing accounts for 10% of global carbon emissions, and the production of synthetic fibers, such as polyester, requires fossil fuels, which release carbon dioxide when burned. And particularly, these synthetic fibers shed microfibers during washing, and these tiny plastic particles enter water bodies, posing risks to marine life and entering ultimately the food chain. So I have another question for you before we move into textile waste. And the question is, the equivalent to a garbage truck full of textiles ends up in landfills or gets burned every second, minute, or hour. So while you give your answers, I have some facts. Did you know that the average consumer today purchases 60% more clothing compared to the year 2000, but keeps them for half as long? And in the UK alone, it is estimated that 140 million pounds worth of clothing goes to the landfill each year. And in the United States, for instance, where in 2018, over 17 million tons of textile waste was generated, there was only about 15% being recycled. And everything that is not being recycled becomes textile waste. Now, to give you the answer to the question, the equivalent to a garbage truck full of textiles ends up in landfills or gets burned every second, which is just insane, if you ask me.
Yes. So thank you, Marjolein, with leaving me with the textile waste, and we'll continue on waste, but we just want to say that really textile waste, specifically synthetic fibers, because those are plastic, that's only a fraction of the amount of plastic waste that is actually generated. So we have to put it in numbers. Today, we produce about 400 million tons of plastic waste every year. Now, you might think, why is that a problem? Why are we putting so much emphasis on plastic waste and not the waste that we create of the apples we eat in the morning, right? Well, the reason is because plastic, it can be either if it's a polyester t-shirt or a water bottle. Plastic, the same qualities that make plastic so useful, which is its durability, its resistance. It's also what makes it so polluting for our ecosystem, because it makes it almost impossible to completely break down in nature. So basically what plastic does is that it just breaks down into smaller and smaller and smaller pieces, but it never fully degrades. So basically, that means that plastic waste just stays in our landfills, in our rivers, in our oceans for centuries and on, right? So continuing on the topic of waste generation, I also have a question for you. Thank you. So from the 9.2 billion tons of plastic produced between 1950 to 2017, how much do you think became plastic waste? Do you think that's 5 billion tons? Do you think that's 7 billion tons? Do you think that's 8 billion tons? And I'm giving you some time to answer. I see that there's quite some different answers already out there. Great. So the actual answer is 7 billion. So 7 billion became waste out of 9.2 produced. And that's a lot. And to put it in different numbers is that from the plastic waste that we have generated since its existence, less than 10% has actually been recycled. So at this point of the presentation, you might be thinking, hey, I came here to learn about the solutions to a circular economy, those pathways that lead us there. And I'm just being here depressed about all these big numbers. So don't worry, we're at that point of the presentation where we go into what are the ways forward. And the first and foremost action that has to happen not only in an individual, but also in a collective level is to reduce plastic consumption and to reduce plastic production. Now, what we mean by this is to only use the plastic or what is needed and refuse unnecessary excess. So a very simple example, if you are at a canteen and you can choose between a plastic fork or eating with the fork that is metal that you know that they will wash afterwards, then choose that metal one. Then you avoid that, even using that plastic, and you avoid that fork, that one fork, to be in that landfill for centuries. Well, I will lead you to the second question that will because it's not as easy as just reducing, right? So the second question is if you can imagine a world without plastic. Okay. Why we brought this question is also because, you know, no matter if you answer no, because maybe you say, hey, either I don't see it possible, or you even think, hey, I think it has to exist for hygienic reasons or for whatever your reasons are. Or if you say, hey, I'm not sure, I'm really not sure. Or you say, hey, yes, I imagine it because I think that's the only way forward that we can overcome it. Whatever your answer has been, it's valid and it's your opinion. And I think why we want to bring it in is because we cannot deny that there is an opinion, there is a lot of opinions out there that think that plastic to a certain degree will never disappear due to, I don't know, for example, the hygienic reasons in particular circumstances. So this leads to a bigger discussion that is also out there, which is if plastic pollution or plastic waste is really a problem of waste, or if it's a problem of waste management. Now, if you ask me, it's both. I don't think it's either and. I think it's both. Now, why is that? That is because plastic pollution and plastic waste is a complex problem, and complex problems have no single solution. So while reducing consumption and production will help prevent the generation of plastic on the first place, I think that waste management can prevent those plastics that do exist from becoming waste. So while reducing is essential because we are producing plastic at exponential rates that are impossible for us to manage, while reducing is necessary and it's the first step, there are other practices such as repairing and reusing, recycling, upcycling, that will lead us to a circular use of plastics and its management. So that is what leads us to look into a circular model of our economy. So yeah, we go to the next one. Here we can see the difference between what a linear model would look like and what a circular model would. So in a linear model where an object or material comes to the end of its life, then we just discard it and it becomes waste. In a circular model, we acknowledge that waste is a resource. So that shirt that we talked about, that bottle, we see that it has value and we find ways to reintroduce it in our economy. So in other words, in a circular economy, instead of seeing that waste as trash, as some would say, we see it as treasure. Yeah, so here's another way to visualize it. It's a widespread figure. And here you can see where in the circular economy, those materials are always reintroduced. So you lead to this zero waste or minimal waste economy. Yeah. So there's many ways in which we can, well, go to create a circular economy, to transition towards it. And there are many actors out there that need to play a role. But in this webinar, we want to focus on two specific ones, one being the creative and inclusive industries, and the second one being youth. So for the first one, the creative industries, we ask what is the role that they can play? Well, here we put different points. They can do much more, but some of the highlights are, first of all, to really, through repurposing, recycling, and upcycling initiatives, they can transform waste from an externality to a resource. So they can create new things from that waste. The second one is that creative economies can use their platforms to advocate for change. They can help implement policies and regulations that can help promote the circular models. They can also innovate. They can make new designs, develop eco-friendly products, packaging, materials, technologies, all that will help supply chains to become more circular. Then there is also the creative industries can also spread awareness. They can utilize educational programs to help the public become more mindful and more aware of these impacts and of the practices to go forward. Then there is also facilitating collaborations and partnerships, because in complex problems, again, there's so many actors that we cannot really do it alone. Yes, you can take personal action, but to really create the systemic change, we need all the different actors to collaborate. And these creative industries can enhance these collaborations and these long-lasting partnerships. And lastly, they can really develop responsible marketing strategies and become more transparent with their communications with consumers, which then can help drive behavioral change. So then we lead into the next part.
Yes. So now that you know a bit more about creative industries, we move to youth impact. Since we are youth, we also want to highlight some impacts that youth are creating, because youth can contribute in many ways to a circular economy, but the complexity of the problem can seem discouraging and overwhelming at times. But it is precisely the grand scale of the problem that also seems that also allows for so many entryways. And this leaves youth plenty of room to explore their role in the transition to a circular economy. And what was crucial for me to find my passion, but also to acknowledge the problems we are facing in the first place, was a group of like-minded people. In our earlier webinar participations, we have talked about the potential of collaborations and that the value of working together can be so much larger than the sum of individual inputs. And in face of the overwhelming challenges, we believe that we need collaboration to motivate and support each other and to help foster our mutual strengths in order to make the change needed happen. And of course, there are many ways to do this, for instance, through networking and community building, creativity and innovation, entrepreneurship, or activism and advocacy. And starting with networking and community building, this is something sometimes an overlooked dimension of change making, while it is often the glue holding all of our efforts together. An example for community building for circularity is the Global Eco-Village Network. This network has the goal to build sustainable communities and connect people with each other who are exploring alternatives for our less than perfect society. If you look at creativity and innovation, for instance, you see that many of the solutions we need are already on the table, but many of those solutions need to be further created, innovated, and adapted to the local context. Take a look at the young enterprise Basic Shit, for instance, who are based here in Delhi. And this enterprise combines stylish designs with genius innovations, creating compost toilets by recycling plastic waste. Creativity and innovation is also needed in entrepreneurship. Becoming circular means that we have to rethink and reshape the way that we are doing businesses. And the network Precious Plastic is a great example of enterprises that set out to do exactly that. They use waste as a resource to make beautiful products and to share their knowledge, all while being openly sourced, meaning anyone has access to the information at any time for free. And last but not least, we have activism and advocacy. And whether it is raising awareness among your peer groups, writing letters to your politicians, or organizing demonstrations, there are so many ways to make use of the power of your voice And to show a bit of that, Klara is gonna show a bit of her own story.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation, both of you. Yeah, so my really proper first encounter with sustainability was Greta Thunberg, who inspired millions of youths to strike with her. Grassroots and locally organized Fridays for Future groups started spreading and striking for climate justice. And soon I came to understand that their protest was my concern. So in my town, Freising, which is close to Munich, I think someone in the audience knows it, we founded our own local group consisting of 7 core members roundabout, and we met weekly. And our first demonstration was a success with over 1,000 members, and that really gave us the sense of possibility that change was indeed possible. And so then soon local politicians and the press started reaching out, and we started to lobby and to further protest, and our town even declared climate emergency. And then in the end, we also even developed the list of demands, which you can see here on the left-hand side, to make Freising circular and climate neutral. And just when that happened, actually COVID broke out, and that really changed our ways of demonstrating. And I think that also then led me to just stop not having the support of the demonstration group, really led me to feel a sense of despair in face of overwhelming challenges. And that kind of made me more aware of eco-emotions and all the eco-anxiety, eco-grief that we feel around these crises. And I moved to the Netherlands, and there I was still active at Fridays for Future and Greenpeace a little bit, but I never felt like anything I did was sufficient to combat all these crises until I came to realize that there's so many ways of taking actions. That is, whether I personally have a conversation about eco-anxiety, or I'm marching in a protest, and so on and so forth. Those are all important ways to take action. And it's only about finding a way to contribute, given the resources and skills and networks you have, and not forgetting to not only regenerate ecosystems, but also your own energy. And I think most importantly, it's about not looking away. It's about daring to look right in the eyes of the problems and choosing to take action. And this is the transition to introduce our panelists, because we have 5 panelists who are all choosing to take action. And yeah, so let me introduce you to them. We have Adriana Marina, who also already spoke. And she does not only have decade-long experiences with her own enterprise, Animana, with which she was able to empower as many as, or more than even 7,500 artisans, but she's also a visionary through and through. And she has created networks for systemic change by using her platform, Hecho for Nosotros. Adriana, it's a pleasure having you here. Next up, we have Gautam Malik. He's the Yes, thank you. He is the co-founder of Jaggery Bags, an enterprise that creates immeasurable value from seemingly nothing, automotive-based residues, or more simply known as maybe car-based, might not be quite correct. But by doing so, Jaggery does not only create beautiful bags, but also a great impact on our environment and India is working for. Thank you so much for being here tonight, Gautam. Then next up, we have Luna, who has an impressive technical background in innovation and development of textiles. And currently she's volunteering her time with HxN, while she's also working for Spread Group, one of the most sustainable order-to-make companies. We're thrilled to have you here, Luna, and are excited to hear from your experience.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's nice to hear. Then we have Shubham, who is a program manager at Conserve India, an NGO that upcycles various types of plastic and thereby upskills waste workers and artisans. And he's also active with Plastiskul, an international consortium of upcycling microfactories. We're looking forward to hearing from your experience, Shubham.
Hi everyone, and thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. And last but not least, you have Dureid. And Dureid has grown up between two cultures, Syria and Germany. So he had his fair share of cross-cultural experience before moving to the Netherlands to study there, driven by his passion for sustainability. During his time in uni, he has worked on various projects in sustainable fashion, and one of them was a research project with a startup called HxN Clothing. Then he moved to Delhi alongside his lovely teammates, as you must have noticed, where we all learned more about circularity in yet another culture. He is inspiring me as a teammate, and I'm sure he will do so as a panelist as well. Yeah. So after this warm welcome, shall we jump right to the questions? The first question is for everyone individually, and then we have 2 questions for a joint discussion. This is a short reminder to please keep your questions short and sweet, a bit concise. We would love to hear for a longer time from you, but the capacity of this format is a bit limited. So yeah, let's go right to our first question for you, Adriana. You have been working with a lot of youth members throughout your career. From your experience, what value does collaboration with youth bring to Hecho Nosotros, but also to yourself?
Didn't get very well the question because there was a noise for me. Can you repeat?
Yes. So my question is about, yeah.
Yeah, or write it there, or yeah, sorry.
Yeah. We can put it in the chat. So it's about the value of collaboration with youth.
Okay, okay. Well, this, I think, is the huge challenge our society has, no? And we as person, I think that really our system that is so fragmented, as are our value chains, we are fragmented inside, yes, and we are going like against our own nature. Our body is totally collaborative. If something is wrong, all the energy will go to help that part to be cured, no? And the system we created, very linked to profit and not to listen nature, not to understand that we are a system ourselves and we live in a system altogether. So we interfere so much that system without understanding all or respecting the laws of nature, the laws of flowing, yes, inside that system. So for me, since the very beginning, it is like a book that, that I have near always, how to make collaboration work, no? And to experience, to dive in, because, well, it seems so easy, so, let's say, so giving so much welfare everywhere, no? But at the same time, when you go through, you notice how difficult it is to make collaboration work. But all these 14 years, we feel so happy and can say like enthusiastic, because finally Animana and Hecho por Nosotros is just a journey of collaboration, yes, to make it happen. Maybe there are so many fails, but it's not that you have to look, let's say, for a concrete goal. You have to do that exercise and leave it there. Everything comes back. In these 14 years, I can say that the first fails around collaboration with institutions or other companies finally, after time, I don't know, maybe perseverance and to be there, make the opportunity to be successful in collaboration. And I think should be the main theme we have to embrace, how to make collaboration work. So very happy with this question, and thank you.
Thank you, Adriana. Yeah, it was a pleasure collaborating with Hecho for Nosotros. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Next up, talking about a bit of a different type of collaboration, I would like to ask you, Gautam, as founder of Jaggery, you pushed forward many new ideas that can help with the upliftment of India's working poor. Can you tell us a bit more about your concept of activism and what it means to you?
Thank you so much, the entire group of students, Klara, Helena, and Daniel, and I'm sorry, I always forget mispronouncing your name, Marianne. Sorry about that. So thank you again for the opportunity. At Jaggery, you know, Backtivism represents our belief that sustainable fashion can be used as a powerful tool to address social and environmental change. It combines elements of fashion, activism, and conscious consumerism to create a positive impact on the lives of India's working poor. And how is it that we are able to incorporate or impact the lives of the working poor is by looking at certain waste streams that the industry in general is not necessarily able to address. For instance, through upcycling discarded automotive shredder residue like car seat belts and inner tubes, essentially byproducts of the automobile industry, we are able to reduce waste, but also provide sustainable livelihood opportunities to the marginalized people of India, especially the bottom of the pyramid communities that don't have access to education, don't have access to healthcare, don't have access to travel. These are communities that don't even have enough money to travel and become the so-called migrant labor in bigger cities. So our framework is a relatively new framework. We launched it just last year in 2022. We have been taking work to some of the kind of disconnected communities in remote parts of the country, and based on the 7 sites where automotive shredder residue is collected, congregated, and then thereby sent to landfills or incinerators, we've identified rural communities. For instance, Delhi NCR, which is where we are based out of, in Gurgaon, kind of boasts of the largest automotive shredder facility in the country, followed by one in the east, which is between the states of Bihar and Bengal. Then there's one in Mumbai, there's one in the south in Chennai, there's one outside Bangalore, and there are 2 others in central India. So based on the locations of these facilities, we are then able to identify the communities in the surrounding states, and then through partnerships with self-help groups and other NGOs that are working in livelihoods programs, we then reach out to these communities. So we've had one example in Pakur district in Jharkhand, which is about 100 kilometers from the closest facility where cars are dismantled in the eastern part of the country. And then there's one facility that, one unit that we've been able to set up in Delhi NCR in the Bahadurgarh area. It's an urban village in the north. So what we essentially do is that we take our work, because there are other dynamics that come into the picture when you're working with the communities that don't have haven't had the education or the exposure. The male members of the families are often very conservative, and they don't want the women to leave their homes, to go and work in other facilities. So that poses a unique proposition that work has to be brought to them, and then they have to kind of go through a workshopping model. So this in a nutshell is the whole concept of activism. You know, bags, eco-friendly, sustainable fashion plus activism equals to social impact, eco-modern products that people don't necessarily associate with India, given a rich culture of colors and fabrics and textures. This is a relatively new area where we're trying to create some formative impact and create connections with and collaborations with organizations around the world. Catalyst 2030 is one of them. Acumen's Academy is another one. There are a few others that we are working with. So these are early days, but we are very excited about it.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you for explaining that concept. So nice to hear how you're creating different types of textile from end-of-life material. Talking about different types of textile, I have a question for Luna, as you're working in R&D and product innovation. We're sure you know all about different trends and potential solutions also. So we were wondering, what pathway would you advise a youth entrepreneur seeking to make a change in the fashion industry recommend taking?
Well, that's actually an interesting question and quite a tough one as well, I must say. So you're using the word trend and solution in the same sentence. So there's a very fine line there. They don't always go hand in hand, so you kind of need to find the right balance there. Like, I don't know if you guys remember back in 2021, at the end of 2021, there was this huge hype of NFTs. Just if you remember, just feel free to do the thumbs up reaction. Well, in this case, for example, we see the NFTs as a trend, right? But the blockchain was the real solution behind it. This is something that you could apply to the supply chain or solution to sort of inspire or give trust to the customer, right? Not sure if anyone remembers this, but yeah. And, you know, for those taking or seeking to take the responsibility of being a change maker, just, you know, you need to be open for anything, basically. So just take all your individual thoughts and become the community. So change your glasses, your colored glasses every day, every moment. And yeah, because you need to pay attention to it, to the surroundings, to the hot topics. You know, a hot topic is very loud. It's the trend. But the solution is like right there, hidden underneath. So yeah, to find the solution, you need to dig deeper, talk to people, ask questions, talk to strangers. You know, you're in a party or you're on a group, gathered with a group of people, just ask them what they think about your thoughts, you know. And yes, unfortunately, some people will say that you're crazy once or twice, and they will tell you that these topics are maybe science fiction, but that's okay. That's kind of the point, you know. That's what we're trying to change. And I do actually have a phrase for this from William Blake. He said once, what is now proved was once only imagined. And, you know, it kind of fits really well here. So yeah, anyways, back to Earth, plastics. When we started seeing plastic as a problem, we sort of saw the food industry making changes. And why? Because it was obvious, right? Everyone thinks of plastic as, I think Helena mentioned before, so plastic, that, I don't know, package thing that my pasta comes in the supermarket, you know, but no one really thinks about what it means for textiles, in this case, synthetics, right? And yeah, right now we're seeing a huge trend, or it's not even a trend, it's really a solution of rPET fabrics being almost normal. And I really want to emphasize the word almost. We're not there yet, but getting there. And by rPET, I mean recycled polymer fabrics, right? So we see private labels collaborating with government programs who are like gathering plastics or waste from oceans and stuff, and they're turning that into a new resource, right? So we see the movement, we are trying to change it, and there are people out there trying to, you know, or being change makers, which is great. And this also means that we're seeing like science and fashion working together like we've never seen before, which is great. It means that we're backed by science now. We see scientists becoming fashion designers and fashion designers becoming scientists, for example, of biomaterials, right? So yeah, I guess that would be my take on trends and solutions, and just really looking forward to everyone else's views on this.
Yes, thank you, Luna, for sharing. Very interesting to hear what you've been witnessing. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, and I think from a different plastic, microplastic frontier, I'm inviting Shubham to share it, as you've been working closely with Conserve and Plastiskul, especially also with a microfactory recycling in Uganda. We were wondering if you can tell us a bit more about what you think of the role of collaboration, especially in this field of working on the plastic upcycling frontier.
Yeah.
Been a
So
theme.
firstly, let me just start out by saying that synergies and collaboration, they don't just exist out in open. They are made, realized, they are of course there is a need to go out, to venture out, talk to the different actors, stakeholders, listen, think, and then act on that, so that a shared value can be realized. So the scale and scope and complexity when we talk about the transformation, especially in waste management and plastic upcycling, so that transformation cannot be managed by any one actor alone. Government, business, civil societies, and academia all has to be there has to be a collaborative and environment that is able to drive sustainable practice and bring benefit, not just environmentally but socially as well as economically to each stakeholders individual. So achieving this kind of cross-sectoral partnership becomes essential to have a sustained and scaled up impact. But these kind of partnership are able to unleash innovation, mobilize expertise, try to gain access to hard to reach resources, and create a shared accountability in this complex world. Down the line, we see that in plastic waste, the challenges occur with the diverse type of plastic that exists, be it from LDPE to HDPE or polystyrene, and the different condition it is in. It can be a legacy waste which is buried in heaps of dirt for e years on out, or it can be a household collected waste that is in a much better quality. So we see that Plastiskul become one such example of a surprising collaboration. So Plastiskul is an international consortium of social innovators that are spread across 3 continents and 6 countries. All the members work to create a shared value from plastic waste with a vision to have a decentralized micro factories that can create a localized impact with the grassroots communities. So we see that the members of the consortium actually met during a Future of Positive Packaging event that was organized by Saman. So none of the members won, but the platform have had them engage for a 1 day event physically, through which the commonness of the plastic cup cycling was seen. 6 months later, a fruitful collaboration was formed and Plastiskul was incepted. So Conserve in its own also has valued collaboration, and we are continuously pursuing opportunities to create a shared impact that is
Yeah.
much greater than any one actor can play in the waste management field. We also try to engage with all kind of stakeholders, be it private networks, civil society organization like HxN, governmental bodies like Skill Council for Green Jobs, and even consortium of scientific innovation bodies like NOSTC. We continuously support our partner throughout the way, and I think that's the end of my time. And
Yes, exactly. But thanks for sharing your insights. Yeah, really interesting. Also, that what you say that collaboration takes effort and has to be intentional effort. Yeah, and it links to, you see, there's a hidden theme in our evening. It links to my next question I have for Dureid, as you're obviously one of our beloved and cherished team members, and part of you. And so we're also wondering, what have you learned from this collaboration that you would like to pass on to future students working on a collaboration such as this?
Thank you, Klara. Well, first of all, yeah, I would like to thank you for this sweet introduction. And to go to your question a bit, I think that's a very hard question to ask, because there's also a lot of things that you could recommend. But I think one of the main things that I've learned from this collaboration especially is that the world does not seem as hopeless as it might be perceived, like either from what we hear on the media and also on the news regarding climate change. Now, although I believe also that climate change and waste management is the greatest single challenge of humanity, and that younger generations are experiencing immense eco-stress, like you mentioned earlier, because they are worried really about their future. Now, I see that being engaged and aspiring to work on complex challenges, such as this one, can help show that emergence can occur through a shared vision. Now, when results happen in front of you, due to your collective effort, that will help you, such as us, to get inspired. Now, however, the problem I see with this is that responsibility should not only be placed on youth. It is easy sometimes for us to say that we are responsible to create this change because it is our future that we are trying to build. But this can be sometimes counterproductive, and it can postpone immediate action to be taken, as sometimes the decision-making power is not among the youth, but it is currently held by big corporations and politicians. So to answer your question, I think we as youth should not underestimate our voices, to speak loudly and activating our aspirations to taking action. Now, you will see also much of different differences in our voices that can make, and what you can create if you are working with a bright-minded team, like my team members right here who are giving these presentations today, and also that we can make inclusive decisions as a collective. Now, we are all the children. My main message is that we are all the children of this earth, and no matter our age, we should all take immediate steps to change our industries right now to make them more inclusive and also more circular. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Dureid, for your answer. I couldn't agree more. And yeah, so I think now up to our next question, as we are slowly nearing the end of our webinar. It is about a topic that you already touched upon a bit. It's about inclusivity. And my question to all the panelists now is, what does an inclusive transition to a circular economy mean to you? And how can we enhance this inclusivity as we go about this transition? I think Gautam already touched upon it by empowering India's poor working, and there's many elements of this inclusivity that have been named. But I pass this question now back to all the panelists. And yeah, I would love to hear your insights and thoughts on that. Is there anyone who would like to go first?
I mean, sure, why not? If no one else wants to go first, then yeah, why not? Right. Well, for me, basically, when we're talking about inclusivity, it means making it available for everyone, right? So having a truly circular product that we can wear on everyday life or everyday basis, available for everyone, and that would be the perfect transition into it. But right now it's quite exclusive, right? So only certain players offer this, and honestly, it's not affordable for all the tiers. So yeah, I would basically say, I know, an inclusive transition, as you put it, would be to make it the new normal, let's say. And how do we enhance it? Honestly, I would say through scalability. So, as we did before with everything else, I think this would be the key. But yeah, that's my take on it.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's a really good point that to make it bigger, to get more people on board, to share this vision. Yeah, thank you. Gautam, you want to go next? I see you unmuted.
Sure, I could take it up from there. So for Jaggery and Backtivism, our an inclusive transition to a circular economy means ensuring that the principles of sustainability and circularity reach all the segments of society and not just a select few, especially those from the underserved communities. And what this literally means is that new opportunities need to be created for the economic empowerment and resilience and social upliftment by engaging and involving individuals from all sorts of backgrounds in our circular practices. And I don't have any clear-cut answers, but we feel that by creating upcycling centers around the country, especially in India, we can start providing training, employment, and skill development to the marginalized community, as against, and maybe also adding to the initiative that I discussed in my introduction, was to try and take these jobs to the villages, to the rural areas, but also adding to that a layer where in next time when you come to India, you'll see upcycling centers in different parts of the country, and that will not be hidden from plain view. These need to be supported by all the pillars of the society, policy makers, media, everybody plays an important role. It's also a matter of political will. So with this, we can aim to break the barriers and bridge the gap and foster inclusivity in the circular economy. We literally believe, and we live this every day, is that everybody should have equal access and to be able to participate in informed decision making and benefit from the positive environmental and social impacts of our circular initiatives. And this will only lead to better contribution to a more equitable and sustainable future for everybody, not just for the working poor in India, but also for other marginalized communities and ostracized communities across the globe. So back to you, Klara.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your vision. It's so powerful to hear what you envision Indian society, but society in large to look at. Yeah, is there anyone else who would want to share? I'm looking to my right. Where is Dureid?
So if I can add just a small point, so agreeing with Luna and Gautam's point on having a just transition, that decentralized intervention and driving entrepreneurship becomes vital. Along with that, creating a sensitization amongst the masses for upcycled product and having a political will to have a socially inclusive policies for resource management becomes vital. Like just an example that both Germany and Japan have used used circular economy as a binding principle for reorganizing their economy. And even China has a law. It's a circular economy promotion law that helps transition to a better and a sustainable future. So along with all the points that political will also becomes important.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you for pointing out to this dimension of also holding the powerful ones accountable, like the politicians and so on, and that it's a matter of loss also. Yeah. Is there anything you would like to share, Dureid, about this question?
Well, I would like to actually, yeah, for me, when I think of inclusivity, it's a very, very big topic. And I'm gonna kind of go a bit kind of less technical on it and start by saying that, like, for me, inclusivity really means that we should embrace the shared humanity that we have, despite all our individual differences. So I see people as unique and special in their own way. So someone who inspired me a lot, for example, is one of our lecturers at Windesheim, Rose, who's from South Africa. During one of our workshops, she introduced to our students an African philosophy that is very close to her heart. And it's called Ubuntu. And Ubuntu really means that I am because you are, and you are because we are. It's all about understanding that each of us, our personality and who we are, is purely shaped by all the human encounters that we have experienced. from our ancestors to future generations. Now, we of course have the critics and the disbelievers of climate change, and also of plastic waste management, but when we also have those who constantly advocate for change. And we all want clean water and fresh air. We all want to play and experience joy. We all want good living standards, not only for ourselves, but also for our children, our parents, and our loved ones. So to answer your question, I think we can enhance our collective transition to a circular economy by really embracing our shared humanity and our interconnectedness as one human species. So by caring for ourselves and others, we can be inclusive in our transition to a circular world. Thank you, Klara. Back to you.
Yes, thank you, Dureid. I'm very inspired by you all. And as we're nearing the end, is that Helena still in the meeting? I don't know. Yeah, as we're nearing the end, I have one last close-up question for all of the panelists, which is a very short one. So I would ask you to maybe just answer in a few words or one sentence. I think, Gautam, I've already asked you this question. It's a question about if you had the chance to make a wish regarding our topic, the transition to an inclusive circular economy. And then tomorrow morning you wake up and you notice, oh, the thing I've been wanting, I've been struggling, I've been contemplating so long is suddenly there. Is there something that jumps to your mind that would be?
Just for the new members who are attending, Klara and I have had this discussion before, and the whole idea that I want to wish for is that there should be a mindset shift. Today, we all go to bed and tomorrow we wake up and realize that everything circular is literally gold, like gold replaces circularity replaces gold, So my wish for that is that people should embrace a mindset shift and work on their inner development goals. As much as we care about the planet of the earth, there's an equal amount that we need to care about our own inner development. And it's through that inner development we can kind of nurture and polish and chisel our mindsets. So it's always about the mindset. It's mind over matter. So that's essentially what I would wish for.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah. Anyone else? Does something come to mind?
So bringing in a bit of a theoretical perspective, I would wish to have the role of the invisible hand of the market as propounded by Adam Smith. So that would be the judging and the driving force of the market. So that way in itself will create us a circular impact.
Thank you. That's a good one. Yeah.
Maybe from my side, I would love to have some magic bridges tomorrow. Bridges that can connect every step of the supply chain to make circularity possible, and maybe with flexible materials. I know this is kind of crazy, but anyways, something that would be flexible to implementing new solutions. I think that would be my dream come true.
I love the metaphorical nature of your wish. It's very nice to imagine.
Well, for me, actually, I kind of go into the direction that what Gautam has already mentioned. I think all of the answers are actually very great wishes that we can have for our world. But I think that we kind of have a lot of problems that we want to solve regarding waste and climate change. But for example, that our water and air become clean to eliminate waste and also greenhouse emissions. But what I really think would be the most impactful is that we wake up tomorrow and we all change our ways of thinking. And then from that, we can change how our systems operate. So to wake up and see that humanity has changed its mindset and behavior for the better quality of humanity and for the better good of humanity. So from that step, I believe that we can start taking actions as a collective together. So yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, Dureid. It was such an inspiring discussion. Thank you very much to all the panelists. We have arrived at the end of our webinar, but we're not quite there yet. I have a last interactive bit for all the participants, which is actually the part of what we've been talking about during this whole webinar, that it really starts with ourselves and the collaborations we form, the networks we're in, the connections we make. And so my question before we round up this evening is, following the framework of the work that we connect, the question of what is a step I can take toward a more inclusive and circular world in the next week.